about to hear is true.
Springfield Dispatch.
Eddie Chavez,
You're returning in service. 2122.
Ruben Nava,
A1 clear, scene, no transport. We're in service.
and Jesse Romero.
22.
Jesus 911.
Good morning, Virgin Most Powerful listeners. We are 10-8 in service right now at Jesus 911 show on this Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. We hope everybody had a blessed Thanksgiving. Jess, how you doing out there?
Too blessed to be stressed. We're 10-8, and we're ready for calls. We're ready for go ahead and call dispatch, 888-526-215 when we're ready.
And here's the place where we tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God. And our opinions are always balanced by good theology and common sense. Jess, we got a good show today. We should put a little disclaimer though. It's going to be a very heavy topic. So anybody that has the children maybe still at home for the Thanksgiving holiday might want to do some scooting away the children from the computer, because it will be heavy unless they're older. They can handle it. They've heard these things before. This is a spiritual battle show, as we always do. So just a little disclaimer there, because it's a pretty heavy topic.
Yeah, we're talking about, Eddie, there's a famous case, and it's happened in recent years. It's a famous case of possession, exorcism and possession of a young lady by the name of Emily Rose. She was from Bavaria, Germany, and I'll get you here when she passed away. She passed away in 1970.
76,
Come
I
up
think.
right here.
I think it was 76, I believe.
76?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, her name was also, she was also known as Annalise McKell. We want to look at her case, and we're also you're going to hear a commentary from Father Ripperger in the next segment. He's going to kind of give a summary of this case. But this is also something very fascinating, because this case, the two priests that handled it, she consented because she wanted people to know how bad this was and how real this is. She consented to the exorcism being recorded. She had 6 demons in her, and on the third segment, the top of the third segment, we're going to play a small little clip of Annalisa Rose during the actual exorcism, during the rite by the two priests, where the 6 demons, obviously inhabiting her body, started speaking through her mouth. If you've never heard it, again, it's pretty chilling. So, Eddie, what's a good summary of what happened in this case in Bavaria, Germany, back in the 70s?
Well, just from what I can gather and what the article indicates, it's this. There's this girl, and she, in opposition to most of the cases that we hear about, either during that era or before, there's always some reason that the person that is possessed becomes possessed. So there's always a reason, a spiritual reason, something that occurs where a door is opened through the use of a Ouija board, the occult, seance, etc. There's always some dabbling in the occult where a door is open, and then the individual, because of their lack of sanctity, maybe their immortal sin, contributes even a little bit more to this situation, and then somebody is possessed, and it can be rather quickly, or it can be progressive, step by step. Well, that was not the case with Annalise. And again, we should mention, I know you already did, Jess, but this true story was detailed in a movie called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And to some degree, it was accurate in some areas, and in other areas, maybe not so much. But what happened in the actual case is that this was a very pious young lady. She was a very holy young lady. And what happened is what is summarized as a victim soul, which means that the individual, Annalise, again, who's from Germany, this occurred in Germany, gave her permission to be possessed by a demon. And we'll get into the details of why that was. and we'll even introduce this information, how she was actually asked by the Virgin Mary, by the Blessed Virgin, if she would be a victim soul, so that people would understand the reality of evil, the reality of the devil, and she agreed. She actually worked in conjunction with the Blessed Virgin Mary and the Trinity in order to allow this to happen. And what she underwent is what we're going to talk about today: the exorcism that occurred in 1975. And this is within our lifetime, Jess. This is something that's not ancient. There's modern, like you said, there's modern recordings, there's modern documentation of this.
Yep.
And it's very clear.
This happened September 20, or it started September 24th, 1975. Her name is Annalisa McCall. They call her Emily Rose. She underwent a series of exorcisms. The official rite was administered during the course of 10 months by two Catholic priests, Father Alt and Father Renz. They were given permission to do so by the local ordinary, that's the Bishop Stangl, in an effort to free her from at least 6 demons that were believed to have been possessing her. And so during the morning hours of July 1st, 1976, Annalisa died of what an autopsy later determined to be malnutrition and dehydration, yet without many of the normal accompanying physical signs of such, because she was not only under the care of her parents, but also the 2 exorcist priests. There was worldwide publicity immediately following her sudden death, and afterwards, Annalisa's parents and the 2 exorcists were brought to trial and were later found guilty of negligent homicide in a dramatic court case that garnered attention not only in Germany, but throughout much of the world. These 2 holy priests, Father Renz and Father Alt, and Annalisa's parents, Joseph and Anna, they were sentenced, can you believe this? Sentenced to 6 months in prison, and thankfully, the judge suspended the 3-year probation and all incurred court costs, and the 2 priests were just fined, but they didn't do any jail time. So Annalisa's death was a very painful case for the church, especially in Germany, and especially for the priest and the local bishop that was involved. But the case, it brought important worldwide changes as to how exorcisms are now evaluated and performed. She was, as Eddie said, she was a victim soul of the church. Here's actually one of her statements made by her mom. This is her mom's statement about her daughter back in 2005. The mom said, Emily died to save lost souls, to atone for their sins. Annalise was a kind, loving, sweet, and obedient girl, but when she was possessed, it was something unnatural, something that you cannot explain. So on September of 1973, Annalise told a physician, or Emily Rose told a physician named Dr. Luthi, that she was having visions of ghastly demonic beings. And she also stated to another physician that she was experiencing horrible smells, horrible stenches. And later, however, others in the family and the priests who performed the exorcisms, they said they also smelled horrid stench during the times that Emily Rose would lose consciousness and she was overtaken by the demon. Father Alt and Renz, they were given permission by the bishop to perform the rite, and after providing proof that she was possessed, and this led to the first of 2 popular misunderstandings concerning Emily Rose. Number 1, the false belief that Emily Rose was mentally ill and not possessed. That was wrong. And number 2, the lack of understanding that Emily Rose was the victim soul for the church and the conversion of sinners. Okay? Concerning the first misunderstanding, that of her being possessed and not mentally ill, there's a statement from Father Alt that says that the possession was the consensus of all the priests who treated her, who knew Emily Rose. He said this, quote, as her spiritual director, which I was from 73 to 75, I cannot allow that her terrible possession and her conscious acceptance of this expiation for sin, which both Father Renz and I have established, be passed over as if it were some theological accident. Emily Rose was possessed. All the priests who took part, many others, Father Habiger, Father Roth, Father Herman, and other experts, Father Rodick, they were all of this same conviction. And the next thing, Eddie, that we want to address is the second misunderstanding, which is the lack of recognition of the fact that Emily Rose, or Annalise, was a victim soul.
Jess, this is so important. This is such an important element to this event because, like I said before, and we have to stress this, that there was nothing this young lady was guilty of in terms of the occult or that kind of activity and mortal sin. This was something that occurred with her permission. And when we think about the implication of that, how many of us would actually even consider allowing some negative thing to happen to us, much less the possession of our body by a spirit, by a demon. That's something that I'm still having a hard time wrapping my mind around, just because. And again, we should mention that this is something that's very rare within the church because the permission is given by the individual after being summoned or asked by some supernatural event, some supernatural being, whether it be Jesus himself, the Blessed Virgin Mary, that the individual is asked and then gives their permission for it. And this is not the only time it's happened, right? Just there have been victim souls throughout the history of our church that have given their permission for this.
Yeah, not very many, but you're right. Like Father Amorth, he cites two of them in his book. He says that there was a victim soul named Father Calabria and a nun, Sister Mary of Jesus. They were Arabs who were subjected to demonic possession, and both of them right now are canonized saints. They did nothing wrong and they consented to the possession. So it does happen, but it's very rare.
Okay, we're coming back. Jesus 911, stay with us on this Friday.
This is Terry Barber inviting you to the upcoming Spiritual Warfare Conference, January 11th and 12th at the Sacred Heart Chapel in downtown Covina. If you go to virginmostpowerfulradio.org, you can join us with that, or call us at 877-526-2151. Jesse Romero will be there, Father Wolfgang will be there, and our very own Matt Arnold will be there, and I'll be the MC. Don't miss out on this wonderful event, January 11th and 12th.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. We desperately need to fix the bugs so you can listen live on our app or YouTube without any glitches. Plus, meet traditional broadcast standards in order to provide our exclusive programming to Catholic radio stations around the country and around the world, absolutely free of charge. As usual, we're doing it all on a shoestring budget, but we cannot do it without you. If you like what you hear on Virgin Most Powerful, I ask you to please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back to Jesus 911, where three cops give you the straight street lowdown by Catholic Briefing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking today about a very, very famous case of an exorcism a possession and exorcism that occurred in the 70s, the 1970s, and it happened in Germany. And we're talking about the case of Annalise Michel, I think that's how it's pronounced, that
also known as Emily Rose.
Emily Rose, yeah, the movie Emily Rose was modeled after, true story. I just saw something on social media. I think Ruben's out there. Ruben said that talk about a Black Friday. That's true. It's a dark Friday today. But just let's go ahead and see if we can hear the Father Ripperger's little commentary on
Father
this
Ripperger's
case.
a professor of exorcism. He's going to give a 2-minute analysis of this case, and then we'll continue giving our commentary. Mr. Engineer, can you play the clip?
Exorcism of Emily Rose. It was actually based upon a true story. The woman's name was Annalise Michel. She was possessed twice, actually. The movie didn't get it right, by the way, but she was possessed twice. First in 1967, and then she was liberated about, if I remember right, about 1970, 69 or 70. She was liberated. 3 months later, Our Lady appeared to her and said, "Would you allow the possession again so that many would come to knowledge of it?" And she said yes. She became possessed again. She ended up dying from it because the demons shut down her ability to eat, which they can do, God permitting. But during her periods of lucidity, she would spend hours in front of the Blessed Sacrament making reparation and praying for the clergy in Germany, because at the time, this was from 1970 roughly until 1972, the German priests were going off the rails at that time. She offered up her possession, all the pain and the suffering that she went through, because when demons manifest, sometimes a person just blacks out, but sometimes the person feels every single thing that the demon is feeling or going through or experiencing, and so it's literally like going through a torture session. That's one of the reasons why it's hard to keep them on focus or on track. But she offered all of that up for the clergy at the time. Christ actually told her, according to the memoirs, Christ actually told her that she would eventually be raised to the altar, which is another way of being said she would be canonized. She was an extraordinarily holy woman, which tells you something. You can be possessed, and it doesn't say anything about whether you're in the state of grace or not, because possession's in the body, sanctity or holiness, that is, the sanctifying grace, is in the soul. They're in two different locations.
That is mind-boggling. But I can tell you, though it doesn't happen very often, there have been cases of very holy people living in a state of grace that have been possessed. It doesn't happen often. I'll give you 3 that the church talks about, okay? St. John Paul II, he beatified Father Giovanni Calabria, and he also beatified Sister Mary of Jesus Crucified. They were Arabs, an Arab priest and an Arab nun. They were holy people, and in both cases, without any human fault, both of them were subjected to periods of true demonic possession. And during those periods, these 2 saints, they said things that were totally incompatible with their holiness without the least fault, because it was the devil who acted through their bodies. There's another famous case of another person that lived in a state of grace and was possessed for 40 years. Her name is Sister Magdalena of the Cross. Okay. In fact, they in church history they kind of call her the devil's saint, because for 40 years she was possessed, and she had her final escape from this possession was through an extraordinary act of repentance. Now, this is few and far between, Eddie. This isn't common. For most people, 99.999% of people, if you live in a state of grace, Father Ripperger himself would say, that's putting on the armor of God. That's the protection that you need against the diabolical. But he said something also very interesting, that she was possessed twice, and she was set free the first time. She was delivered successfully from possession through exorcism, and then the Blessed Mother asked her if she would consent to the possession again for the sins of Germany.
And Jess, what is the Father Ripperger says? he says that the priests at that time were going off the rails. That sounds vaguely familiar to me with the clergy of 2018 is going on right now. So the Virgin Mary saw the necessity for people to reflect back on evil and its grip on the society, and therefore that caused her to ask Annalise to if she would suffer more because of that. That's where we are right now, Jess. And that's pretty alarming when you think about it.
You know what, Eddie? There's also a huge movement in Germany. You have a lot of German Catholics. They've been petitioning the Vatican for years to start the process of canonization. And in Germany, you can even look this up on different web pages. You can see crowds and crowds of people that go every day to go pray in front of the tomb of Emily Rose, because the lay German folk, the lay German Catholics, they believe that she's a saint, that she was a very holy person. And so, that's what you call the court of public opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just when we look at it and we reflect on this, the people that were in that same situation were clergy. They were professed nuns, the priest. So there is some connection there, and I tend to think that if this pious young girl did that very well may be something that in Germany at some point in history will reflect that she is a saint, canonized saint, and be canonized. Because I believe she's already a saint.
I believe that too. I believe she's a holy woman that's in the presence of God at this moment. That's just my opinion. I believe she suffered more than her purgatory in this lifetime, and she did it as a form of penance. In fact, here's what the blessed Annalise Rose, she would oftentimes go to a monastery, and the Blessed Mother appeared to her a few times. And here's what the Blessed Mother, the Virgin Mary, complained to Emily Rose. She said this, quote, "It is a great suffering of my heart that so many souls are lost. It is necessary to do penance for priests, for the youth, and for your country. Would you be willing to do penance for these souls so that not so many are lost?" Close quote. So that was the conversation that Mother Mary at a monastery had with Emily Rose. And here's what's interesting, Eddie. If you look at the history of Germany, they have some bad fruit. I mean, look at Martin Luther, started the Protestant Reformation.
Yep.
You got Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche.
Physicist, I think is right.
He was a philosopher, an atheist philosopher who with his writings has done a lot of damage. With his pen, his atheistic, blasphemous writings have done a lot of damage to people, not only in Germany. You got Adolf Hitler. You got today the German bishops that half of them are trying to push for homosexual marriage, and the clergy in Germany get paid by the German government. Okay, they're on the payroll. Cardinal Casper, who was a pro-homosexual German clergy and an advisor to Pope Francis, his salary, I read it was put out on the internet, the salary, he gets paid $180,000 a year by Germany through taxes. So in other words, if you're a German citizen, you get taxed in addition because that pays for the salaries of the clergy, both Catholics and Protestants. Now, let me tell you something, Eddie. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure this out. If the government is paying your salary as a clergy, do you think you're going to modify your message?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, Jess, you know what? Of course. I mean, that goes without saying. That's a common sense element here. They're going to appease their bosses to make sure that, that it's all status quo. They'd be reluctant to jump up and call a spade when it comes to maybe some actions of their government, some social ill that's going on that they refuse to address because of it. So we have to understand that's definitely a part of this whole dynamic of the German government with German clergy. They're for lack of a better term, they're in bed together.
That's right. So Annalise Rose, the Blessed Virgin Mary told her, said, think about it. Don't tell me right away. Don't give me your answer right away. And so Emily Rose, she spoke to her mother. and her mother in turn discussed it with her husband. And her parents were obviously worried about this request, but they knew that the penance that their daughter Emily Rose would have to undergo would in large part be so that the demons would once again freely and ferociously terrorize her. And they know it's going to be worse this time around. Emily Rose, she spent about the next couple of days praying before a crucifix, and her mom Anna suggested to Emily Rose that she could not say yes and go through with this. And Emily Rose responded, "I can, Mom. If I don't, souls may be lost." What a mature young woman, Eddie, to be praying about, okay, should I consent to this possession? The Mother of God asked me. And instead of saying, heck no, man, I'm not going to go through that again. That was a terrible 2 years of my life.
Yeah.
She says, you know what? If it's to save souls, then I think I've got to go through with it.
Just that's what we in the church militant pray for. We pray that we'll have the courage to unite our hearts with the Immaculate Heart of Mary, that she would lead us to her Son. And so all I can say, Jess, is this woman here, she was more courageous than the 98% of most Catholics right now in the worldwide church, because she united her heart to Mary, knowing what the consequence would be. You and I say, well, we're going to take this line of work, Jess. We're going to do this radio show. We're not sure what happens, but what will happen, maybe it'll work for our betterment, our sanctification. Good and bad may come of it. But this young lady knew exactly what the consequence of uniting her will to the will of the Virgin Mary would be, and she took it, Jess. She went ahead and did it. That's something that is beyond virtue. It's grace. Only the grace of God could lead her that way.
Amen. On the next segment, we're going to put about half a minute. Because the exorcism of Emily Rose was actually recorded. And she had 6 demons. They all gave their names. We're not going to put the whole thing on, obviously. We'll put on about 30 seconds so you could actually hear a woman who's possessed and demons speak through her. Because that's what demons do. They'll take over your voice box. They'll take over your brain. They'll take over your motor functions, your bodily functions.
Bodily functions, yeah.
And what especially you'll find a lot of people that are obsessed, oppressed, or possessed. They say that they feel like they're being choked. Something's got their throat, and you'll see the demons speaking right through their voice box on the next segment. You're listening to our analysis of a very famous case, the exorcism of Emily Rose, and we'll be back.
Matthew Arnold here, encouraging you to go to vmpr.org to register for our upcoming Spiritual Warfare Conference this January 11th and 12th at the Sacred Heart Chapel in Covina. Father Wolfgang will be speaking along with Jesse Romero, Terry Barber as MC, and yours truly, talking about spiritual warfare and the family. Protect your family now. Go to vmp.org and register for this conference. Don't miss it.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. We desperately need to fix the bugs so you can listen live on our app or YouTube without any glitches. Plus, meet traditional broadcast standards in order to provide our exclusive programming to Catholic radio stations around the country and around the world, absolutely free of charge. As usual, we're doing it all on a shoestring budget, but we cannot do it without you. If you like what you hear on Virgin Most Powerful, I ask you to please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back to Jesus 911. We are talking about the true story of the movie called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. The young lady's name was Annalise, and we're going to now listen to a clip of the actual recording. That was something that was very, very unique about this case, that it was actually documented so well, but also that it was a solemn exorcism, of course, and that the Trinity and the Blessed Virgin Mary had intimate interaction with this young lady during the course of her possession, and that it was recorded. So all these things are very unique in the area of exorcism, deliverance and exorcisms. And so we're going to now hear a clip from the actual recording of the voices that were coming from the body of Annalise. Now, I want everybody to realize that this is pretty dramatic, so young children obviously shouldn't be listening to this. But this is what I also want you to listen. In the context of what's happening, it's an actual exorcism. And the demons are agitated. They're agitated through the voice of this young woman. But I want you to also pay attention, not only to that, because that's the dramatic, but the fine print here, the fine print of this beautiful sacramental of the ritual, the rite of exorcism. Listen to the priest. The priest is steadfast. He's not being influenced by the dramatic nature of these particular demons. So, Jessa, do you want to make a comment, or should we go directly to
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
Du gibst nur dort, wo die Liebe ist.
Ja, bei uns gibt's nur
Nur Hass.
Ja.
Und wo nur Hass ist, da gibt's keine Ruhe.
Nein. Und für
You just listened to a clip from the actual not the movie, the actual exorcism of Emily Rose that occurred in Bavaria, Germany. It was authorized, the full rite was authorized by the Bishop Stangl. It was performed by two Catholic priests, Father Renz and Father Alt. And this is probably one of the most, this was back in 1975. This is probably one of the most well-documented cases. It's in recent times because of recording and because of cameras. And so we know the church has been able to learn a whole lot about this. Now, here's something else I just want to throw into the mix. That Emily Rose, on the second time when she consented to the possession, and she, as a victim soul to make penance for the sins of Germany, right before one of the exorcisms, that was on September 24th, 1975, Father Renz, he brought 3 glasses of water and he put them in front of Emily Rose. Now, she's fully possessed the second time around. One glass of water was water from Lourdes. Another glass of water was water from San Damiano. And the other was just tap water from the faucet. When Emily Rose she picked up the water from San Damiano, and she said, I can't say on radio, she said, San Damiano poop water.
Poop water.
And she put it aside. And she knew, when she was possessed, she knew which was the holy water, and she went straight and picked up the glass with only tap water. Here's something else that Father Renz says that happened during one of the exorcisms. The demon said, and by the way, she had 6 demon voices that were recorded, and they all gave their names because the priest ordered them to give their names, and they did. And the theology about giving your name, when a priest is able to get the demon to give their name, they become weaker because now they've been identified. And that, I've read, that actually comes from Jewish exorcists. It's the Jews that taught us that you've got to get the name of the demon, taught Catholic priests that. So that's part of Catholic tradition, but we actually learned that from the Jews. So during this one exorcism, Father Renz, as he was reading from his prayer book in Latin, the demon said, I can speak any language, but speak to me in German. And the demon also pointed out on another time, told Father Renz, hey, you just made a mistake in your prayer. So again, trying to throw him off his game because obviously he's being very effective.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to throw him off his game, saying, hey, you mispronounced that word.
Trying to insult him.
Yeah, trying to insult him. And also it was astonishing to the priest to see the demons that they would have an immediate response to questions that were put to them also in Dutch and Chinese, because Father Renz, he was a missionary in China, and the other priest spoke Dutch. And so, yeah, these demons spoke basically every single language you threw at them, Eddie.
You know what, Jess? It's funny because as we listen to that clip of the audio, you can hear a volume that is not proportionate to a human being even. Not only the volume, but the noise. So, I heard several things. I heard a crowd of animals. I heard a single animal growl there. I heard what sounded a little bit more like the voice of Annalise, of Emily Rose. And so these are some of the things that occur and are meant to shake the people that are at the deliverance, at the exorcism, and especially the priest, along with the insults, etc., and commentary from the demons on his performance there. This is what the ritual and of deliverance and exorcism. This is what is this is what goes on there, and you have to be very focused, Jess. I remember a few times when we've been together, either with a case or with a father, and there are some prayers going on, and there's reaction from the individual. Sometimes it happens not outside the confines of a deliverance or a exorcism. It happens at some very sacred moment at a retreat, healing of memories, something there when the demons can no longer remain silent. And it's funny to realize that the priest is never shaken by this. The priest is confident in his faith, confident in the good Lord, confident in the saints and the Virgin who are present at these things. And that's actually what one of the demons told the priest that was conducting the exorcism, right? Just that there were people there. He talked about the one that's up there. He talked about the Virgin Mary. He talked about particular saints that were there, whether it be Saint Joseph or Padre Pio. And so they're very aware of the help, the intercessory help from heaven that the priest is receiving, and that's why they act up, because they're trying to shake up the natural element, the human element that's present there, the team and the priest.
And I'll tell you, during this exorcism of Emily Rose, the priest says that Lucifer actually spoke through Emily Rose. He said it was Lucifer, that was the top of the food chain. And he said Lucifer told the priest through the mouth and body of Emily Rose, he said, quote, "Today hardly anyone believes any longer in the Immaculate Conception and the church. At present, most believe the church is only a community." And look at what the devil said. The devil actually used a theological term. It's used in papal documents. The devil said to the priest, "The modernists are killing it ever more. We are hard at work at this, and we throw much poison into the church so it might be discredited. Wow. Just like right now, Eddie, the church is being discredited by homosexuals in high places. And the devil says that's exactly what we're going to do. The devil says we're going to use modernists to discredit the church. And the devil said to the priest, by now, those who believe in the church and are faithful and believe in her teachings are very few.
You see, Jess, to me, that speaks volumes. So look at our enemy, ladies and gentlemen. Observe our enemy whose tactics are precise. They have zero, they are right on the button. They're eliminating the bishops from these are the ones that give permission to the priest to actually conduct the rite and the ritual of exorcism. And why do you think that has had such an effect on how many exorcists are present? Let's just say in this country, we're at a very all-time low as far as exorcists, designated exorcists throughout the country. We need more of these men, faithful, holy men, and the way that they attacked the demons, is to attack the persons that direct exorcisms. And if you can get them dirty, if you can get some dirt on them, they're not going to be willing to fight the enemy, and that's exactly what's happening right now.
That's right. Lucifer also told the priest through the exorcism, through the mouth of Emily Rose, he said, the rosary, they think it's modern. And many believe that after life, everything is finished. These are very many, and they live accordingly because they do not pray any longer. Sins reach heaven, but the thing will not last long. The one of 1917, referring to the Blessed Virgin Mary at Fatima, said it, but only a few have listened to her. Death, tribulations, and famines, oh yes, they will surely come. So this is Lucifer giving intel to the priest during the exorcism. And what we do know about Emily Rose, there's another very strong bit of investigation that was uncovered, that Emily Rose was probably cursed. She was cursed in her mother's womb prior to her birth by a woman in her mother's hometown. So here's what happened, according to the story. Prior to being married to Joseph, prior to Emily Rose's mother being married, her mother Anna had a relationship and a child with another man, and the woman who did the curse was the wife of this man, and so she presumably did so because she was jealous of Anna's previous relationship with her now husband.
We'll be right back. Jesus 911. Don't change that dial.
This is Terry Barber. I want to invite you to the Spiritual Warfare Conference coming January 11th and 12th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. It's going to be fantastic. I want to encourage you to sign up by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. One of the speakers is sitting right next to me, Matthew Arnold. Matt, what are you going to be telling our folks about?
I'm going to tell them about my journey into the Catholic Church, because in my younger days, I was in the entertainment business. I was all involved with cult beliefs and practices like tarot cards and astrology and even channeling. And I had my own brush with the demonic.
Wow. Not only Matt, but Father Wolfgang from the Opus Angelorum, popular priest, he's welcome back. And our friend Jesse Romero, my partner on the Terry and Jesse Show, will be there. Don't miss it. Go to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call us at 877-526-2151.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. As usual, we're doing it all on a shoestring budget, but we cannot do it without you. If you like what you hear on Virgin Most Powerful, I ask you to please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back to Jesus 911. Thanks for joining us in this last segment. We've been giving some detailed information on the actual case of Anneliese Michel, who was a German citizen in the 1970s who died during the course of an exorcism, a very unique exorcism. We're giving some of the details. We listened to a clip here of the demons that were the actual recording, not the movie, but the actual recording of the exorcism of Anneliese. And this is one of the things that I wanted to bring out, Jess, because this is, to me, it's so informative to hear the interchange, the interaction between the priest and the demons. Here's what it says. It says, during one exorcism session, the demons were desperately complaining. So here are the demons who we give so much credit to, Jess, right? We assign so much power to them, right. And we shouldn't do that. But here the demons are themselves complaining to the exorcist. And this is what they said: "We are damned eternally. Out, out. We wish to come out of the snot nose. We cannot bear staying in her any longer. The filthy slut stays the whole day in the church. We are damned, damned." The exorcist says, "Then come out." And the demon, whose name was Judas, said, "We cannot, because he does not allow it. The one up there, that one does not want it. He wants us to remain. We want to get out of her who goes to communion, and she goes every day. We cannot bear this. We wish to come out, out, out. We wish to come out, but the one up there does not allow for it." So listen, this is what we take from that, Jess. We take that when the demons possess the body of an individual who is steeped in mortal sin, they are extremely comfortable. This is what they feed on, people's mortal sin. And even though, in this case, God allowed them to inhabit the body of this pious young woman, they're being tormented. And I would say even worse than if they were in the pit of hell. They want to come out of this pious woman because she prays, she receives a Holy Communion, she's in church. These are the things that we need to take. These are little intel facts, just like we used to get from the street, from gang members, from different people that in the neighborhood that know what's going on criminal activity wise. This is the information we obtain from the enemy through these exorcisms, that what the priests learn, and we have to put them into play in our own life. And that's an extremely smart way to play this game.
Here's another thing I heard Father Chad Ripperger say in his lecture. It's called Levels of Spiritual Warfare. He says that sometimes a very holy person like Emily Rose, that God allows the possession to trap the demon in their body. In other words, it's like, he says, like a cage. The body becomes like a cage. And this way, through exorcisms, major and minor, they start tormenting the demons, and they're able to drive them out. But you have to cage them up first before you drive them out back into hell. So I found that very interesting, the way Father Ripperger says, yeah, sometimes the human body is used by God, by his permissive will, to be used as a cage for these demons, to torture them and to drive them back to hell. Again, that's a high level of holiness and spirituality that, Eddie, I can't even wrap my mind around that, about, being a victim soul at that level. But again, another thing that happened is during one of the exorcisms, this one was on Halloween 1975, the demons became very upset, and they told the priest that there's a number of heavenly visitors present in the room. You know, the Blessed Virgin Mary, St. Joseph, Padre Pio, you know, St. Teresa Newman, St. Michael the Archangel. So the demon was, during one of the exorcisms, was divulging to the priest that this room is crowded with a bunch of holy... In fact, here's what the demon said. It is so hard to be in this room. There are so many holy people present. Okay, that was on October 31st, where all the demons said that to the priest and conceded that this, what Eddie called the communion of saints.
Yep.
Here's something else that's very big, and I've always understood. I've always had my own belief about this issue, and I think that history will vindicate me. And I think that as the church studies this more and more, I'll be vindicated. I believe a lot of mental institution is diabolical. Okay, a lot of mental illness. Excuse me. Why do I say that? Okay, in one of the exorcisms, look at what it says here. Emily Rose on many occasions that she was not allowed to eat, and Father Ripperger says the demons prevented her from eating,
right? Because
God permitted it.
Yes.
Everything the demons do, God permits it, okay? So you'll see Father Ripperger, you'll say, God permitting, the demons didn't allow her to eat. God permitting, they didn't allow her to drink water.
Right.
So it says here in the article, Emily was very adamantly opposed to going to the physician or a hospital because she believed that they were simply going to declare her mentally ill and place her in a mental illness facility. Now, here's the kicker. The demons admitted it was their desire to have Emily Rose in a mental institution. Why? There, she would not have the benefit of the priests and the exorcism prayers, and they would thus be able to torment her more freely, and she would be out of the public view where the world would not have been aware of her possession and sufferings. Eddie, the point that I'm making is I believe that a lot of people, because we become a bunch of non-believers, the devil even told the priests, we become modernist. The devil used that word.
Right.
We become modernists in the church. We don't believe in this stuff. So he said, take him to a psychiatrist. Take Tio Paco to a psychiatrist. Yep. Hey, take Tia Licha to a psychologist. Okay, they're crazy.
Yep.
The last thing we come on, devils, are you kidding me? And these demons are laughing, Eddie, because we're taking them somewhere where they're never going to be prayed for ever again.
Absolutely. This is so important. We need to realize this young lady had a sense that by seeking medical attention and you have to consider this, just by getting medical attention, this young lady would have been given something to eat. She would have been, cared for psychologically, medically, but yet she knew, she had this sense that she would lose her ability to suffer for souls and complete her mission and her promise to the Virgin Mary. Can you imagine that, Jess? To me, that is so amazing. This Jess, I'm telling you, these demons know what they're doing. Our enemy are very, very articulate, very precise in the battle that they're fighting because they've had so much practice. So to have her in a mental institution is to separate her from the prayers of the priest, the sacramentals. This is where they wanted her because they were suffering. They were suffering from being inside a holy young lady. And man, you know what, Jess? I got to give hats off to her. And we need to pray that we have a fraction of the courage of Annalise.
Eddie, that reminds me of a story that Father Gabriel Amorth in one of his 3 books, I forget what, he talks about a priest, a Filipino priest. I forget his name right now. I'm trying to think about his name. He lived back in like the 19th century, early 19th century, and he had a friend who was the executive director of a mental institution. And he told his friend, he goes, they went to high school together. And, he went off to be an executive director of a state hospital, and the other one went off to be a Catholic priest. Well, he was also an exorcist as priest, and he told his friend, he goes, I think most of your patients are possessed. His friend started chuckling. Yeah, right, Father. Of course you're going to say that you're a Catholic priest. He goes, well, if you don't mind, he goes, you think I could go by and go to every room and pray an exorcism prayer? I mean, you don't believe in this stuff anyhow. It can't hurt, right? He goes, you know what, Father, knock yourself out. If it makes you feel good, yeah, get your little book out there and go to every room and pray, and you got my permission. So Father Amorth records in the story, he says, the priest went to every room and stopped, and did a prayer of exorcism and deliverance. The next day, Father Amorth records that 80% of the mental institution patients checked out of the hospital.
Jess, this is why the church now has learned the value that the church gains from something like this, to have an exchange where the demons admit to what they're trying to do. And remember, they're not doing it of their own volition, but they're obeying the priest in persona Christi, who's giving these orders for them to divulge the information, so that now we have psychological interviews to see exactly what the people are experiencing, many of which are not actually suffering from some psychological disorder, but something that the demons are trying to conduct within them, to get them labeled and on medication, so that the priest, they first of all won't even approach the priest, and that the priest is not willing, not that they're not willing, but not ready to treat them until some of these psychological disorders that have been diagnosed are done and taken care of. So this is the value of having a recorded exorcism, the way the Annalise was in the 1970s. I think that was an awesome thing for them to do, so beneficial for our church in the years to come.
You got it. And let's not forget, Father Ripperger says in his the lecture, Levels of Spiritual Warfare, he actually says, and he tells all priests, a lot of priests say, Father, I can never do what you do. And Father Ripperger, the exorcist, says, yeah, you could. In fact, you do it all the time. He goes, do you hear confessions? Yes. He says, that's more powerful than what I do. He says, because he goes, in the sacrament of confession, Father Ripperger says, what you do is you break the devil's, if you're possessed, the legal bond is broken through the sacrament of confession. The legal bond. So now, all you have to do is kick them out, or using the biblical word, like in today's gospel, drive them out. And that can be done once the legal bond is broken. How do you break the legal bond that a devil has permission? The sacrament of confession. So Father Ripperger tells priests all the time, he goes, you go to, you hear confessions? Why? You know what? You're doing something more powerful than I do. My work is specialty. It's a specialty, but the sacrament of confession is more powerful than what I do. So Catholics, once again, live in a state of grace.
Yeah.
What can I tell you?
Yes,
don't live in a state of mortal sin.
It's a simple recipe, but not many of us use it, Jess. And you know what? We didn't realize that by going to confession, we remove the demon's rights to us every time we go to confession. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard another great show from Jesus 911, Spiritual Warfare. Just some information for you. The next program, Gary Machuda, Hands-On Apologetics, will be a best of, a rerun, because Gary is out of pocket today. But following that, the Terry and Jesse show will be right back at its regularly scheduled time. Yeah, and live. It'll be live, okay? So come on back immediately, and again in an hour for Jess and Terry. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus 911, have a great weekend. God bless you. Take care.
St. Augustine once wrote, question the beauty of the earth, question the beauty of the sea, question the beauty of the air, spread around everywhere. Question the beauty of the sky, the sun making the day glorious with its bright beams, the moon tempering the darkness with its shining rays. Question the animals that move through the waters and amble about on dry land. Question all these things. They all answer you, here we are. Look, we're beautiful. Their beauty is their confession. Who made these beautiful, changeable things, if not one who is beautiful and unchangeable? All creation shouts to us that there's a God, and just as a painting gives us a glimpse into the heart of an artist, all creation tells us that God is beautiful. But if we don't take time to question the beauty all around us, we won't hear that. So stop and smell the roses. I mean that literally. God wrote 2 books, Scripture and Creation. We should spend time reading both. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com.